Today, South Africa is at a crossroads. 2024 is shaping up to be arguably one of our most important elections. All of this happening under some serious structural problems. Most state-owned enterprises are bankrupt. Almost all economic indicators have now turned negative. Riots and mass civil unrest, rolling mass blackouts, and now even water shedding. Civilians, politicians, civil society, we are all to blame. Politicians have created the mess, we have allowed this to happen. Nelson Mandela would be ashamed of all of us.
I've had the discussion with various parties, talking independence. Every one of them came to us with a predisposed notion of, you're colored man, that's how we're going to do it. I wasn't engaged. We weren't engaged, but we expected to sign for it. Remember Nelson Mandela said it to all of us, never again will this beautiful nation know racial domination.
3% of agricultural land is owned by colored people, black people and Indian people. 3%. So we don't talk about those issues, we talk about succession. Let us be honest, what this party who wants independence, and I said it the last time, they don't want black people in this province. Let's be honest. Just be honest about it. You don't want black people because even the definition...
Okay, quiet!
No.
Quiet!
The reality is, if you're a causa person and your house has been broken into, you want to go to a police station and speak to someone that speaks your language. If you're English speaking, if you're Afrikaans speaking, you need to have these services delivered to you in your home language. That is not racism, and this is what the ANC is trying to do. They trick these words to make us feel guilty about our history and our culture, and we will not stand for it. We are united as a true rainbow nation.
You tell Julius Malema what he said 3 weeks ago, that he will murder whites in this country and that he will bring a genocide down on us. What do you want me to do except to get up and say, as jy gaan moer, dan gaan ek jou terugmoer. Sorry, I am unapologetic. Because once he's beaten and murdered whites, who's next?
I'm not here to attack the ANC government. They've done the job good enough to break themselves down. The reality is, if they believe in democracy, then be democratic and give us our independence. That is democracy. Why did the ANC government, by the names of Ramaphosa, being in the discussions about secession, blatantly ignore it?
On the flip side of the coin, the Western Cape has remained largely stable, exceeding the standards of the rest of South Africa. Should the Western Cape break away? Can it do so? And should it do so before the Hindenburg crashes on the Titanic? Or is it just a pipe dream, a foolish idea to entertain, but it's not really realistic, and it will just lead to more chaos and a civil war? Hello, my name is Donald, and welcome to the #1 media company, Worldview. At Worldview, we explore everyone's perspectives on all things that can broaden our worldview. Once again, we have an excellent panel that will help us understand and answer this question: should the Western Cape break away?
And I promise the President I'll fight you in every corner I've got. I know them well. This is an animal. This is a hyena. And it's busy eating the Pride Land piece for piece.
We wouldn't be having this discussion if we had competent governance in this country. 28 years of democracy has brought us here to the point where people are desperate enough to say, listen, perhaps we should exit. I, for one, in my personal capacity, 100% support the idea. I think everybody should exit South Africa. I say let the Zulu govern the Zulu. Let the Xhosa govern the Xhosa. Let the colored govern the colored. Because in the South African context, there's absolutely no space for colored people. Here we sit. Everybody wants to exit. But where are my people? Where are the people doing the dying? Where are the people who know the suffering? 28 years in this country is gat poor. 400 years later, everybody expects us to stay quiet. The people that can talk about slavery, about land dispossession, about the breaking up of families. And everybody expects us to be okay with it. We are not.
Fadiel is a councillor in Cape Town, and he is the leader of the Cape Coloured Congress. He is also the founder of the Gatful Capetonian movement.
If secession is to happen, I need to ask a question here to the panel and the audience. Under what terms? To whose benefit? Do you go back to Constantia? Do I go back to Lavendale? What are we securing here? Am I securing your future, sir? Am I signing my own death warrant again? Secession is a beautiful idea. What we have has sold us out. Remember Nelson Mandela said it to all of us. Never, never again will this beautiful nation know racial domination. But what happened? The heirs to Mandela showed themselves. The majority of them are racist. The majority of them don't care about people like me or people like you. Hell, my sister, they don't even care about people like you. So where do we go from here? Do we secede? Do we do it as a people? Or we do it as we are here? Because I can tell you this, I've had the discussion with various parties, talking independence. Every one of them came to us with a predisposed notion of, you're colored man, that's how we're going to do it. I wasn't engaged. We weren't engaged, but we expected to sign for it. The majority, you can't do it without us. But you want to do it anyway. Good luck with that. Thank you.
Basically, we went through a civil war to get to democracy in this country. And out of that struggle, we established a constitution, which I believe gives everyone in this country equal rights. But that constitution also recognized the fact that there were categories of people in our country that were classified as African, colored, Indian, women in general, disabled, who were discriminated against. And that's why our constitution also talks about redress.
We have Cameron Dugmore, the defender of gay people everywhere. He is an anti-apartheid activist, a former member of the UDF, and currently a member of the ANC, the African National Congress.
But then you also have the ACDP taking positions against gay people. And that's discriminatory to me. And
you know, when the ANC want to criticize, they criticize you against gays.
He is the leader of the opposition in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and he has held various ministerial positions in the Western Cape government.
So we believe that in the Constitution there are provisions for 9 provinces. Those provinces have powers in regard to education, in regard to health. And our Constitution also talks about intergovernmental cooperation, working together, not just between provincial and national, but also local government. And we believe that the work that was done by those who participated in the struggle, those who helped to draft the Constitution, produced a document where we still have today a free press, we have an independent judiciary, we have regular, free and fair elections. The key issues that we need to discuss, which I don't believe are being discussed by the secessionist movement, is the fact that in agriculture in the Western Cape, 3% of agricultural land is owned by colored people, black people, and Indian people. 3%. So we don't talk about those issues, we talk about succession. We don't talk about the fact that many employers at this point in time do not support a minimum wage. Those are the issues of inequality, the issues of poverty, the issues of landlessness. We believe that parties have the right to contest. The Cape Independent Party has the right to contest in 2024, and they should. But for now, our constitution is a cooperative governance. We are still building this democracy, and we do not believe that the Cape or any other province should secede.
The Cape Independence Party was founded in 2007. For 15 years, we've been telling people the ship is sinking. The very reason we are all gathered here today is because we realize we're about to go under. And I'm very appreciative of Cameron Dugmore's words and his acknowledgement of our constitutional right to push for self-determination and to push for independence. And what we need to do is maintain the integrity of a political system that respects democracy, the rule of law.
We have Jack Müller, who is the leader of the Cape Independence Party. He is also a former model. I don't know if that's a retired model, a former model, and a business owner.
The great fear that we have at the Cape Independence Party is that the rhetoric we hear from parties like the ANC and the EFF, not all factions, which is why I appreciate these words today, but there are factions which want to take us towards a Zimbabwe-type situation. And we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't even want Cape Independence if the Rainbow Nation was delivered by the ANC. We believe the Rainbow Nation can be delivered right here in an independent Cape and all of its beautiful people.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
I see the media calls me a militant. They say I am the new Stasi because I made a statement yesterday under my constitutional right to say to Julius Malema, ek gaan jou op jou moer gee. This is the constitutional right that we have in this country to secede or not to secede. But in this province where we stay, murder and mayhem takes place. In Luanda, just across the road in Makassar, and people die. Cape Independence is a good idea, but it's not going to happen in 16 months. That's a dream. I just beat cancer. My dream is to live. But in the interim, we must wake up to reality. And that reality is that we have a failed state. We have state capture and no one's going to jail. Put leaders in jail that stole and we might believe.
Neil de Beer is a serial entrepreneur and the CEO of various companies like the investment fund Africa. He was the former chief intelligence officer of Umkhonto we Sizwe, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Umkhonto we Sizwe, which he details in his book Undercover with Mandela's Spies. He is currently a councillor in Cape Town and he is the president of the United Independent Movement.
Secession again, I love it. I'm an ex-soldier and head of intelligence, not IQ. Ek weet wat kom. If you knew, we would fight for our children today. I served Mandela. He believed in a dream like Cape Exit. Is also a dream, but we've got to face reality. And that reality is that we're in a state of domestic war. Hulle skiet ons met AKs. And what's our answer? I'm sorry, a failed police. A police that last night couldn't muster one police van to come and arrest a criminal, which we did, and there's fellow people here that walk the streets with me at night. So here's the end of my discussion on opening. Great dream. Great golf GTI met 'n moves uitblaasstelsel, maar niks krag wat gaan uitkom. We've got to survive 16 months,
Cap.
and that we can do if we unite, not necessarily break away. That is my opinion.
Well, the United Liberty Alliance does not believe in secession for the Western Cape. Are you surprised? No, because we believe in terms of international law on the secession of the areas in a country in which area you've determined which group of people you've determined in terms of international law. And that is a much, much bigger area than just the Western Cape. In fact, it entails the whole of the old Cape province, including a part of the Free State. Why and how do we get to it? Because that is where the so-called minorities. And who are the minorities? The minorities, according to South African current law, are all the people that are excluded in the B-BBEE numbers. And we know who we are. All the colors, all the whites, all the Indians, because B does not stand for brown, Fadiel. It stands for black. Those laws, 114 of them, reversed apartheid laws, determined our group of people. It was very easy.
Hein Marx is a business owner, a commercial pilot. He was former president P.W. Botha, die groot krokodil, is a spokesperson, and he is the former chairman of the Federal Alliance political party. He is currently the president of the United Liberty Alliance.
What we do is we have fought and followed international law in terms of secession. Article 1 of the International Covenant on Human and Political Rights is very clear about it. The ANC government, very, very nicely, thank you very much, Cameron, signed that law as an agreement on the 3rd of October 1994. In fact, on the 10th of December 1998, they re-signed that as an agreement. Why is that important? Because Section 231 of the Constitution says they've got to honor that.
From the ANC side, we believe fundamentally in the principle of non-racialism. We are one of the few liberation movements that in our ranks, people who participated in our struggle came from the white community, came from the colored community, came from the Indian community, came from the African community, Zulus also. So compared to any other African liberation struggle, our movement, the African National Congress, we think of Ashley Creel, we think of Basil February, we think of Chris Hein, we think of Joe Slovo. So the non-racial question, and that's where I want to disagree with what Fadiel is saying. Number one, Fadiel says, let the Zulus govern the Zulus, let the colours govern the colours. In the Zulu community, some people support the IFP, some people are more supporting the monarch, others are not, some support the ANC. So to say that Zulus, that's going back to apartheid where the Bantustans themselves were economic failures, they were not given support. So the notion of pushing people back into Bantustans is something that we do not agree with. We've got 9 provinces, so-called colored people, people who define themselves as Xhosa, live all over this country. Jimmy Manyi was not speaking on behalf of the ANC when he made the racist statement, colored should go somewhere else. That's nonsense. Colored people, African people, white people belong in this country. As the Freedom Charter says, South Africa belongs to all. Employment equity benefits historically disadvantaged people, including people who are classified as colored. If you look at equity, and Hein said B-BBEE doesn't include colored people, you're absolutely wrong. The colored people, together with disabled, together with women, together with African people, are beneficiaries because they were historically disadvantaged. So that is actually not factual in terms of that. I agree with you. My own view in the Western Cape is that when we come to issues of diversity, the population of the Western Cape should be represented in our businesses, in our public service. And where that's not happening, we must call them out. But we've got a democracy, we must make that democracy work. And in 2024, punish the organizations, whether provincially or nationally, who have not taken this country forward. That's our right.
I'm just going to shelve my respect for Cameron Dugmore just for a minute. Ashley Creel, you mentioned him. You didn't mention Robbie France.
Basil February.
Basil February, you did. But you said how much you respect him. The ANC has shown us the disrespect they've given our fallen. Where is Ashley Creel Boulevard? Where is Robbie's memorial? I've got a Biko, I've got a Lutuli, I've got every cause I name I can think of. The ANC has been disrespectful to colored people. Please, sir, remove the blinkers. I beg of you. Secondly, when it comes to the issue of colored representation, the Department of Labor, which is run by the black South African government we know as the ANC, employed 48 client services advisors, not one colored. 1,000 colored CVs were thrown away, and the ANC did not react. I am in possession of a finding by the Human Rights Commission that this happened. The ANC did not act on it. Jimmy Manyi made a racist statement. He said, coloreds must move. There's too many of them here. He was not speaking on behalf of the ANC. You would have me believe. The ANC did not discipline the man.
So, member of the ANC.
He left to join another party. When this happened, the ANC did not stand up and say, whoa, Jimmy, hands off our colors. I tell you today, Mr. Dugmore, the ANC we believed in, it exists in name only. It does not care about me. It certainly does not care about you. Look at the composition of what was your provincial executive. It wasn't demographically reflective of this province, and it never will be. Until the day the ANC finds itself, and I fear that day may never come. Do yourself a favor and listen to even the right wing in this room today.
Cameron, you're wrong. The reality is we're not talking about the theory of the Constitution. We are welcome to discuss the Constitution if you want to. And I will prove to you theoretically that we've got a fantastic constitution. It is not applied practically. But I'm not here to attack the ANC government. They've done the job good enough to break themselves down. The reality is, if they believe in democracy, then be democratic and give us our independence. That is democracy. Once our group of people give their mandates to have independence, then, Cameron, the ANC should honor not only democracy, but also the fact that they support Palestine's secession, as well as yesterday, this new republic in the north of Africa, Sahara. They support it. If they support democracy, give us our democracy. Why did the ANC government, by the names of Ramaphosa, being in the discussions about secession, blatantly ignore it?
We live in a world where everybody is saying that the Western Cape is flourishing, and you cannot disagree. Coloureds, whites, and Indians have become, Cameron, irrelevant. Jy moet 'n wet hê. You have to have a constitutional grouping that says you can ask the law to secede. Do you really think, with respect, we have independence of judiciary when we can't even under Zondo lock one person up that's relevant? So I want to make a point. You have to have a constitution to ask it to secede.
Okay.
And I think we don't.
Cameron so nicely said, well, BBE works for everybody. I can tell you, Cameron, that in my town in Longabon, I can see our coloured jobs going down the tubes from imports from the Eastern Cape. Why? Because it's going well in the Western Cape. The DA apparently manages it well. But then the DA is not really in control of the province. The ANC is. Fadiel, you'll agree with me about the jobs being lost. I can see that. I want our people, and I count you, the coloured people of South Africa, I count as my people. I want our people to work. I don't want to go to Checkers and be served by an import from the Eastern Cape. I want to be served by my people. I want to be spoken to in Afrikaans. That is what I want. Independence of the Cape all the way.
Thank you. The point I was making, which Fadiel did not dispute, is that employment equity benefits all those who were disadvantaged unfairly by apartheid, which includes people who were classified as coloured. You didn't dispute that. Because the reality is, you pointed out a wrong situation, as you say. It's unacceptable that Department of Labour there. But if you look at employment in this province, the reality is that in terms of the population, the majority percentage of unemployment are actually people, African Xhosa speakers. That's the reality. So when I hear and I see a gentleman, with all due respect to his party, coming up here and he says he wants to go to a till and he only wants to hear Afrikaans. Well, let me say, I'm from this province. When I go to a till, ek wil Afrikaans hoor, ek wil as iemand Xhosa praat. So basis wat hy eintlik sê, hy soekie swart mense in die Weskaap. Let's be honest. Let us be honest. What this party who wants independence, and I said it the last time, they don't want black people in this province. Let's be honest. Just be honest about it. You don't want black people because even the definition...
Okay, quiet.
No.
Quiet.
The reality is, if that gentleman is representing the party and he says he doesn't want a teller to speak anything but Afrikaans, what is he saying? He's basically saying, ons soek nie swart mense in die Weskaap. Kom ons wees eerlik. Just be honest about it. Thank you.
You see, this is the problem with the ANC. They need to make everything about race. Members of the crowd here simply want to go to a till, to go to a police station after someone's been mugged or potentially murdered, go to a hospital when their lives are on the line, and speak to someone in those desperate times in a language that they can understand and that they are understood. This is the ANC agenda, to destroy the Cape culture, to destroy the Afrikaans language. Why can't students in Stellenbosch speak in the Afrikaans language? Why are coloured people put on the queue behind the people coming in here from the Eastern Cape when it comes to getting houses?
We are struggling in backyards. Our children are struggling.
They bring Eastern Cape people down from Eastern Cape to put them in our houses.
I'm homeless, man. I need a place.
What? They come out of Eastern Cape, wherever they get houses and not on waiting list. What about our people who are long on waiting list? Why don't government give us an answer?
We are tired to live in the backyards. 27 years of democracy, the government has never delivered what they have promised us. Equal housing to each and every person.
Because as was said earlier, under apartheid, colored people were not white enough. Under the ANC regime, colored people are not black enough. And this is what the Cape Independence Party wants to do. We believe in a system of live and let live. If you're a Khoisan person and your house has been broken into, you want to go to a police station and speak to someone that speaks your language. If you're English speaking, if you're Afrikaans speaking, you need to have these services delivered to you in your home language. That is not racism, and this is what the ANC is trying to do. They trick these words to make us feel guilty about our history and our culture, and we will not stand for it. We are united as a true rainbow nation.
So you from the ANC, you're speaking about that guy that said about the tolls. I agree with him. Soos in Afrikaans, ek is 'n gebouwman, you see hier opposite the velde. Dat is die oude beers. Now that is a mud, that's mud that they build on there. But when we, as colored people, apply, we get rejected. So if I go to a police station in a colored area, our people don't talk English. They speak Afrikaans. You know what the people tell you? Hey, learn my language. Now are you, I don't know, listen to me. This is a police station. We've asked all the police stations. We've asked police stations, please employ colored people. So it's not about being racist. But the fact is the fact. Waar is die colored mense? There's nothing for us. The ANC used us. They used us. I was shocked with tear gas. Riots. The DA used us. By just employing some colored people. Now where are we? They've taken the jobs away. So sir, I know you're ANC. You're covering up. It's fine. It's your party. You get paid. It's fine. If I get paid the amount of you that you get paid, I'll also cover up for it. I'll do it. I'll praise Ramaphosa to the best. I'll even defend Zuma. But I'm a proud colored man. I'm a proud colored person. And not all colors are scholars and gangsters. We build this country.
I want to assure you, Mr. Dugmore, that because of financial constraints, we weren't able to contest outside of Cape Town. But when we get there, we look forward to showing the ANC up again. Secondly, I want to say to you, Mr. Dugmore, please do not misunderstand what I say. When I say to you that B-BBEE is not doing a thing for colored people, that's all I'm saying.
B-BBEE or B-BBEE?
Both of them. I want to make you understand that you can walk anywhere on the Cape Flats. Anywhere. And I challenge you to show me the colored representation in any business. Anyone. Shoprite. Checkers. Pick and Pay. Go to the state-owned entities. Do me a favor, go to Belleville South. Transnet. Right opposite Belleville, an entirely colored community. 3 people from Belleville South work there. 3 colors. The other 486, black. Your ANC brought us this. We should not stand here, guys, and hide what we're doing. Not you guys, and not you. What we're doing here is everybody's trying to benefit their own people. Let us be honest about it. Let us put that card on the table and say, I'm concerned about my grandchildren. The best seamstresses in the world were found on the Cape Flats. My mother was one of them. My ANC closed those factories. The best builders in the world, tradesmen, I am one of them. He is one of them. Our ANC ended that game. Zimbabweans work here now. Malawians work here now. Colored people, there's absolutely no space for us and there's no voice for us. However, what we need to ask ourselves here today is, what is the way forward? Is it, as Mr. De Beer says, secession cannot work? Or is it, as Mr. Müller says, yes it will? I am not a legal expert, but I am strongly in favor. Thank you.
I don't want to talk about the incapable government of the ANC. We all know that. I'm here to listen, convince me if the Cape can become independent.
Here's the harsh reality, understanding the law. Secession UDI can only be declared in this country under war and under referendum. Kom ons skrik wakker. Ek is jammer. Can this city, this Cape Town, be a Monaco? You damn right. I was born on a farm in Stellenbosch. It's a beautiful city. We can be economically independent. Nee, dis waar. Ons het die mooiste drywe, die beste berg, die grootste mense in 'n mooi strand. Now you sit in this province with the only constitution, meneer. Ek antwoord jou nou. Jy wou weet hoe of waar. This is it. We either go to war and secede, which international law will then support, fact, or we call a referendum and the majority say, ons is klaar. The DA rules this province and they know this is the only province in its constitution that allows a referendum to be called by the province. Why are they not calling it? DA. Helen, jy moet omroep my broer. Because we will then understand the votes of the Western Cape factually. Nie mor en yap nie. Call it, I dare you. You won't. You won't. Because you want 9 province power. I am with you.
Okay.
Want ek het 'n huis hierso en ek gaan lekker lewe. Maar kom ons praat gou realiteit. That is the only 2 options we have. And let's talk about that reality.
It goes further than that. It must be based on an international legal process. The reality is we don't want anything from the ANC government anymore because in terms of international law, once we have the majority, and the majority is 50% plus 1.
Will he get that majority?
Well,
it seems like Cape Exit is struggling to do that.
Very difficult because a lot of people can't get to the information. The reality is the mainstream media have got so much democracy that they are being told very straight and very clear, you may not have a discussion with the ELA with Hein Marx. That, Mr. Cameron Dugmore, is not democracy. That is that because this is not the mainstream media.
But we are here.
This is not the mainstream media. We are here quite simply because what we can do only after we've done the legal process, which we finished, with your support.
We did not have a civil war. We had a civil handover. When we decided to do a civil handover, 68% of the people of this country voted at a referendum and said yes. We want everyone to become part and parcel. Why was it necessary to bring out just after we gave over in 1994? There were 17 discriminating race-based laws which were wrong then in the old dispensation. So the ANC upped it by 217, and they're all of them are against the white minority, the brown minority and the Indian minorities.
I appreciate the openness and the honesty of my friend Neil. People can now see that a turning point is coming in this country. And everyone here, I believe, has faith and wants the democratic, legal, constitutional pathway to recognizing self-determination or the political will of the people. Maybe they don't want Cape independence. Maybe the majority of people in the Cape would rather remain handcuffed to the DA and slave to a national ANC government. And frankly, we're living in a one-party dictatorship. But we all believe in democracy here. And we need to give people that right to vote in a referendum. And so this gentleman came here today to learn more about all of us and our movement. So part of the reason why the Cape should be an independent country, just one of the many, is that the Western Cape pays 250 billion rand in taxes to the National Treasury.
Yes.
We get back on an annual basis a mere 50 billion rand. We could cut taxes in half and double services overnight just by making the Cape an independent country.
I hope that this whole house here is of one mind that we don't want a war. For now.
Let's exclude it for now.
Okay. Die man wil nog op 'n stadion baklei like. Okay, let's say we don't want a war. Now the second issue is the referendum. I just want to read to you. This is the Western Cape Constitution, and it's the section on the powers of the Premier, right? So the Premier is responsible for calling a referendum in the Western Cape in accordance with national legislation. So that Premier, Alan Windley, has actually got that power. My understanding, I'm going to check on this, in terms of national legislation, right? Ons het 'n verkiesing 2024 en die partye wat wil secede, hulle kan opstaan by daai verkiesing en sê stem vir ons, we want to succeed. And I don't want to make a joke about Cape Independence getting 0.7. You've mentioned that you've been in this for 15 years. The local government average was 0.7. So that for me is the third option. Go and vote and convince voters that you want to succeed, and then you can, in this constitution can be changed with a 2/3 majority.
Politics is an interesting animal. People vote for different parties for different reasons. If you look at the Cape Independence Party, what we stand for is a vision of self-determination, and ultimately, if the ANC will not negotiate with us on that basis, a referendum on Cape independence. Now, this is an issue which is not unique to the Cape. In fact, there are many provinces around South Africa that also seek self-determination and independence. And in fact, countries in Europe seek self-determination and independence. Just a few years ago, Britain said, we don't want to be a part of the European Union anymore. And they voted in a democratic election, in a referendum, to declare Brexit legal and final. And Britain has now seceded from the European Union. UKIP and Nigel Farage had one seat in British Parliament. Virtually no representation, yet he stood for an ideal, a vision, and values that were reflected by the majority of British people. Yes. The Cape Independence Party might have 2 seats in government, but we reflect a vision, an ideal that the majority of the Cape wants. People vote for the DA in this province out of a fear, not for you, Cameron Dugmore, but the party you work for. That belief is unfortunately driven by a misunderstanding of how the political system works. And so out of fear, the majority of voters in the Western Cape vote for the DA. They vote for the lesser of the evils out there. This is why you will find Cape Independence is far more popular than any one political party's vote numbers or support at the polls. But it is a sign, certainly, that change is coming, and we're very happy to represent those voters who believe in this, who are prepared to go out there, put an X on a piece of paper to fight for their grandchildren's future.
193 countries in the world have already succeeded in secession because it's international law. The fact that the ANC, with their arrogance towards this, ignores us, actually makes our case much better. We have finished all the international requirements for secession. Now we need the will of the people, because without the will of the people, it can't happen.
When we go to the ballot, people are voting based on multiple issues. They're voting based on, who's given them KFC on the day of the vote, who's given them free T-shirts. They're voting on whether the DA has told them that the ANC is going to return if a smaller party gets voted for. You're not going to get an honest representation on a single clear yes or no, I want independence at the ballot paper. The apartheid did not end at the ballot.
What we read in the newspaper was that your party, Jack, and the Freedom Front and the DA and some others came together and you formed something called the Devolution Alliance. So in a way, what you're seeing there is that those parties, in a way, even though the Cape Independence Party wants succession at their end vision, and the DA says we want federalism, they are working together, right? So the issue is, I want to ask, have you then compromised your demand for Cape independence by working with the DA? Helen Ziller and the DA have been in charge here since 2009, and in the city where you're a councillor. Now, that equity and representation of coloured workers, coloured management in the city of Cape Town, or in the provincial government where I am, I can tell you now is not the same as the coloured population. But one thing which I think people don't know about is that what the ANC government has fought for and that will come through is a house of traditional and Khoisan leaders in the Western Cape. In KZN, in the Eastern Cape, we have those houses. This province refused to actually set up such a house for traditional and Khoisan leaders. There's now a national law which says provinces have to do that, and there's a process of getting there.
I support independence because I live in a war zone. 3,500 of our boys die every year. That's more than in Iraq and Afghanistan combined. And the UN is keeping peace there. When you speak war, Neil, we're ready for it. For my children, I will take up arms. Make no mistake. I must say to you, Cameron, I am deeply disappointed though. Put it on the table that the ANC is now establishing traditional house for Khoi and San leaders. It's brilliant. It is 28 years late because the ANC also recognized the Zulu, the Xhosa, the Venda, and the Pondo Kings at the admit of democracy. We again get treated as an afterthought.
The Western Cape blocked it.
Hold on a second, you were in charge of this province at one stage as well. Failing a referendum, what are our options? Because the man has justifiably said, if you want to flex your muscles as Cape Exit or ULA or whoever else you are, show it at the polls. I think it's a fair argument. But I will counter that, Mr. Dugmore. You know, we can't throw the Constitution in my face. When Zapiro once did a caricature of Zuma raping Lady Justice, trampling on the Constitution. The ANC has trampled on that same Constitution so many times, I don't even want to think about it. It's the reason Neil and I are no longer ANC members. That in the absence of a true working constitutional democracy, I put it to you guys who know better than me. What is the alternative?
Mr. Dugmore is correct that the Cape Independence Party had a meeting with the DA, Freedom Front, ACDP, AfriForum, Sake Liga, SAI, and a few other groups, business minds, legal minds, to discuss common ground where we can work together. The Cape Independence Party is not bullheaded. We are open-minded and we're willing to drive forward solutions that can result in a better living environment and future for the people of the Cape. This is something the ANC seems unwilling to do. If, before we get Cape independence, we can at least in the interim make sure that the jobs of people who were born here, who simply happen to speak the wrong language, Afrikaans, or have the wrong skin color according to the ANC, can still get a job and feed their families. If we can achieve that through a coalition and working together with these parties, we will do that. That does not mean we're compromising. It means we're using common sense to look after the best interests of the people who live here. The Western Cape Devolution Working Group is trying to find solutions to problems the ANC has created. Communism, centralism, state totalitarianism over everything and every aspect of our lives is a cancer which will destroy society, and we've seen 27 years of it, and it needs to come to an end. If we can devolve some of those powers, just some, at least, down to local communities, we'll be giving them a lifeline for a better future for their children.
You can boo me at the end. I can safely say that from my point of view, there are only two non-racialists in this room. That is Cameron Dugmore and Neil de Beer. That I can tell you, that is my assessment of today. And I include myself in that assessment. You know, when I stand here and I'm telling you guys, what about my people going forward while we talk secession? And I hear someone scream from the back of the room, the rights my forefathers fought for, my ancestors. You clearly have no idea what your ancestors did to mine. You people, some of you people should, in all honesty, take a sensitivity course. Because generational oppression is what we struggle with here. If this is what you want, let's call it what it is. It's a damn folk stuff. So come back and talk to us from the Northern Cape and the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape, who are the majority here, who get treated like a nothing.
You tell Julius Malema what he said 3 weeks ago, that he will murder whites in this country and that he will bring a genocide down on us. What do you want me to do except to get up and say, as jy gaan moer, dan gaan ek jou terugmoer. Sorry, I am unapologetic. Because once he's beaten and murdered whites, who's next? The coloureds. They are murdering them already. We are under siege. And I'm sorry, we cannot solve this country's problems in 2 minutes. It causes a massive debate Ons is nou so opgesyk, né? Soos jou eerste girlfriend by die real toe fliek. You have got an expectation en dan sê sy vir jou, jy's eindekap. Nou stap jy daar uit, jy's energieklik, maar jy het bokkeropkans genoem.
If you look at countries like Singapore, if you look at these places that took dirt basket countries with nothing, little resources, but with good political policies and good economic policies, we can put issues of race behind us and live in a true, prosperous country for all people of all skin colors. And that's what the Cape Independence Party is fighting for day in and day out. Thank you very much.
The reality is Ramaphosa's leadership has begun to deal with state capture, has begun to deal with the charge of people. As I speak. And within the ANC, Ramaphosa introduced a step aside. That
Okay,
is
let him
ANC
speak.
that I'm fighting for is an ANC that goes back to the principles of non-racism, deals with corruption. And the reality is what people in this audience don't realize is that for the lives of the majority of people in this country, their lives have got better. The majority of people in this country's lives have got better.
I just want to say to Cameron that I really admire his courage for being the only ANC person in a very hostile audience here. Well done. But I also want to say that really you should go and do your homework about what secession really, and by the way, it's secession, not succession, about what secession really is. It's a legal process, not something you go to the national elections for.
Why is the government, for instance, looking at the moment, the so-called terrorism bill? That people means that if we have this exact same discussion, once that law comes into effect, we will all be classified as terrorists, but that's democracy. No, that is 100% true. And in fact, we know because we've actually got a magistrate in the audience here tonight.
I am in favor of an independent nation. I'm walking this path with a whole lot of racists who still see me as your father saw my grandfather. The answer is no. I'd rather stick around Dugmore. At least I know where I'm going. So yes to secession, no to racism. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank Cameron for having the courage to try to defend the indefensible today. Did a decent job, but the truth is hard to hide. I'd also like to tell Fadiel that it's a real pity that he sees aspects of Cape Independence like that. He's more than welcome to join the Cape Independence Party, the true Rainbow Nation, because we have people of all races, from all parts of the Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, everywhere, that support our vision, the type of Cape we want to live in. We really believe in a true Rainbow Nation. We've got all the potential in the world. If we were given a true Rainbow Nation in 1994, I wouldn't be standing here.
We've made huge mistakes. That's one of the things that seriously troubles me as an ANC member, but I'm in the ANC to fight for the renewal of our organization, issue of non-racism. It pains when someone from the EFF calls Neil or anyone else, that a white person must be killed. We are a non-racial, we might differ. The ANC believes that this country belongs to all who live in it, black and white. We as the ANC will protect this constitution, expose those who've destroyed the image of our organization, deal with the criminals, and make sure that Cyril Ramaphosa is elected again to take
I was 32 years in the African National Congress, not as a worker, but as a voter. I was head of intelligence. I served president. And I took a decision, this is not my ANC anymore. I took it, Cameron, it's my right. The problem they have is that I know the hyena. I know it. I lived it. I defended it, and certain of the stuff I even did it. I'm not standing here for party politics today. I know what we fought for. I fought on both sides because both were wrong at the stage. Mr. Dugmore, only people that saw war do not want war again. We saw what he did.
By playing the theory of the law and by doing it practically is two total different things. The minority grouping which we have defined in terms of international law, not in terms of people that hide money under their mattresses. Lots of money. I'm talking practical things that happens in this country. Nothing gets done about the practical problems. Why? Because it's actually the governments in this case the DA and the ANC, that causes it. Hoor my, I'm going to Parliament. If I'm 1 or 2, that's why I'm going to Parliament. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who comes.
Okay.
That's the only reason I will go to Parliament is this, Mr. Dugmore.
Okay.
Murtu. I end off by saying, I am not a warmonger, you know it. I walk with a gun and a bulletproof in your community. In your community, I defended you.
Okay. 5 minutes.
Asking for peace. Ja, nee, daar's hy. Daar's die Here.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This year football play called the Cape, the progenitor, die teelbare aard van die republikeinse ideaal op hierdie vasteland. The drive towards the answering of the question, what is man in nature? Die antwoord is duidelik en voorthand liggend. Dit word in ons gebore, a birthright that rises out of the earth as a man is a son of this soil. The current political system, in this broken excuse for a republic, is stealing from generations that are to come and that have been. This is being done by the privatization through the deep state of state-owned enterprises, incurring intergenerational debt, bringing about the collapse of civilization, bringing about a technological domination, and of course, we have the abuse of global public health. And all of this for what? To take away that which is your birthright, your freedom. But now, I tell you this, these 4 horsemen sound the trumpet, not of the end of freedom, I beg you, please. Hear the birth of a new republic.
We are looking into the abyss of where we're going to end up. We are going to end up in a civil war where the people won't have another option than to stand up and fight for what legally is theirs.
Thank you so much. Like this video, share it as widely as possible, and subscribe to our channel for more such content. I'm Donald, and you've been watching Worldview.